and welcome to episode 350 of the Comics Pals. And what better way to celebrate a half a milestone like that than by having one of the most prolific, one of the most brilliant writers, a winner of many awards, a writer of one of the most, writer and artist, excuse me, of one of the most anticipated books of the year, Clementine Book 2. We're talking to Tillie Walden. Tillie, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Good to see you guys. Happy to be here.
Yes, absolutely. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. Huge shout out to Skybound for facilitating this, particularly Shannon. Thank
Shannon's
you
a
for
trooper.
Yes. She definitely is. And I want to give the rundown. So you've done The End of Summer, right? Ignatz Award winner. I love this part.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I love this part. Ignatz Award winner. City Inside, Broken Frontier winner.
Oh, did it? That's cool.
Spinning, Eisner Award winning. On a Sunbeam, Los Angeles Times Book Prize. Are You Listening? Eisner Award. When I say that, how do you feel about the fact that you have that kind of list of accolades already?
I gotta write that down. You know, it's funny. I've made a lot of books in a really fast succession, but the hours that have gone into making those books make the time feel so much longer than it's been. So to me, all of those awards, I'm like, well, that happened over 30 years, right? And it's like, no, wait, it didn't. It just felt like 30 years. It's really cool. It's really special. I mean, I think that the sort of only way to make a career in comics is to just do a lot of things, try out new kinds of types of storytelling, work with publishers of different sizes. But it is surprising to think that I have received so much validation about the work I've done, because I don't think most people go into comics for validation. They tend to go into it because they're an undying nerd, or for some reason they really feel like they have to do this. It's like there are other ways to spend all the hours in the day other than drawing people in tiny boxes, over and over and over again. But for some reason, I really love doing it, and I really want to keep doing it.
Well, it probably helps when you're this good at it and, people are enjoying it so much. For my part, I can say that I think it's probably fair to say that the cross section between you and sort of more mainstream comics is Clementine.
Absolutely.
And that's how I came to know you. And I love the fact, and I'm excited to hear why you chose to do Clementine, because I love the fact that crossover of Tillie Walden x The Walking Dead resulted in something that's so good, but then also allowed us, and this is a term that we love that I think it was Dennis Culver that used it, to become the archaeologist and go backwards and look at what you've done,
Totally.
And I love that Clementine created that and facilitated that. So
I agree. I think it's really special. Clementine has reached so many people that my little indie gay comics just kind of wouldn't find otherwise. And the comics community is, I don't think people understand how kind of segmented it can be, with taste and with certain publishers, even certain cities. There's so, it's sometimes so hard to unite people in comics. But as far as that is part of the reason I feel like I agreed to do Clementine, which was I felt like I could reach different people in a really different way. Also, The Walking Dead is just a gigantic property. Like Kirkman's universe is enormous. Everyone has heard of The Walking Dead. So it's the kind of thing that sounds really good to tell your mom to be like, Mom, I'm doing The Walking Dead. And she's like, I know what that is. Instead of being like, Mom, I'm publishing a graphic novel with a niche publisher in Britain. And she's like, okay, that sounds nice. What can I tell your grandma? But I think that the real inspiration for working on Clementine is Skybound and Robert and everyone kind of reached out to me about this project at a moment when I didn't have any books going on. It was pandemic-y, I'm pretty sure, because I remember spending a lot of time inside when I got that email. And I've always felt like I think the thing that I'm the most afraid of as a cartoonist is that I'll stop growing or I'll stop changing. And I think constantly about how every book is a chance to get just like a little bit better at doing this. And so I felt like I had done this like trio of books, Spinning, this graphic memoir, Sunbeam, gay sci-fi, Are You Listening, sad gay road trip. And they all had a lot of really similar notes to it. And I felt like I was just kind of waiting to see what I could do next, where I could really try and challenge myself and do something really different. And it was cosmic, because like if you want to challenge yourself and do something different, then like make a Walking Dead comic. It was perfect for me because it's horror, which is something I've never really done before. It's apocalyptic. It's a big property, so that comes with like responsibilities, but like very interesting constraints to kind of work within the universe. It just sounded like the perfect challenge for me at the time. I didn't really fully comprehend what I was saying yes to when they were like, do 3 books. I was like, 3 books? That sounds like nothing. And now here I am trying to work on book 3, and I'm like, this is not nothing. 3 books is a lot. Holy shit. But yeah, I was just kind of like, let's do this. Let's see if I can get better. Let's see what happens. And I thought they were crazy for asking me. I was like, you really think I should do a Walking Dead book? It took so long for me to like the gears to turn in my mind to be like, wait, this is actually like a fascinating collaboration. Of course you want to ask someone who doesn't have like the like natural instinct of like a Walking Dead style or a Walking Dead story. You want to ask someone who is kind of different from that and like mash it up. So it was I've become like, I was so thrilled once I like fully understood what they were asking me to do. And I was thrilled because they said I could do whatever I wanted. And it's rare when you work with like bigger companies and big properties that you actually have creative freedom. But Robert is a chill guy. He's so down for me to just like tell fun stories.
And there, go ahead, Tyler.
Was there any like, I guess, pressure going into it too? Because Walking Dead was, I think, outside of Robert Kirkman, I think Brian K. Vaughan wrote some spin-off stuff for Panel Syndicate, but outside of that, like, it's really only been Kirkman for the comics side of things.
I know, it's really only been men. I'm the first woman to draw and write The Walking Dead. So I don't know if I felt pressure. I think I felt really excited that I was kind of ushering in this new era for the property. I also, you know what? I didn't feel pressure because I didn't feel like I had to do what Robert had done. And I didn't feel like I had to draw the way Charlie Adler drew. And I just felt like they've already done their job so well that clearly I shouldn't try and like copy that. I should just try and take it in a different direction. And it helps that Clementine as a character, for those who have played the games, like already from the like right off the bat, is the kind of character that I was interested in writing. I mean, she's like a queer disabled teen. I was like, I've spent my career writing teenagers, especially sad teenagers. Yeah. This is perfect for me. If I had been handed a character, if I'd been handed like a grisly leader of like a group making it work in like a violent city, might have been hard, but Clementine really, really worked for me right off the bat.
So I have plenty of thoughts about Clementine. Before we dive in even deeper, I want to sneak the plugs in real fast. If you guys are enjoying this conversation, make sure that you are following the Comics Pals all over social media at the Comics Pals. this show is live every single Saturday at 10:15 a.m. Eastern, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern for Pals Pulls. That is our show where we review comics. If you want to support us, the best way to do that is patreon.com/thecomicspals, where you can support us and get some bang for your buck. We love to give you guys bang for your buck, as you know. You get access to our exclusive show, Palling Around. You get to vote in the book club poll, and you get a nickname and a shout out on the show. So, really quick, thank you. Special shout out to the best pals in the universe, Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, and the Hound of Justice, Atomic Hound. And of course, thank you to the Night Stalker, Harris Nijinsky, Brian Demolisher Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Starcross Catherine Stars, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Joel Justice, Jalen the Sanguine Sorcerer, Neon Knight, Cosmic Avenger, and Super Shenran the Conqueror. Thank you all so much. You're beautiful people, and we love you. Okay, back to Tillie. Now,
The great names.
so, whenever someone subscribes at a certain tier, we give them a
Totally.
snazzy nickname. So, it's fun.
Yeah. Sean made one of them a genocidal planet killer last week, so it's cool.
It's an ongoing. It's the Pals verse. It's an ongoing saga. It's like Marvel. So one of the things that I thought was really interesting about you doing a story inside the Walking Dead universe with Clementine is that you stepped into an established IP that's huge in 3 different mediums.
I know.
With these huge audiences that have different, varying degrees of knowledge about what is happening in the Walking Dead universe outside of what it is that they specifically look at.
Exactly.
So that is a crazy tall order. And given the fact that you've done your own thing all this time, was it wild to be confronted by so many people who care so much about all this?
It totally was. It was wild in 2 respects. It was wild the scale of which the amount of people who can be excited and also be very upset. And then on the other side of things, not knowing who the person is who's going to pick up the book and read it. And did they even know what a walker is? I can sort of guess that most people have watched the pilot episode of The Walking Dead or something, but trying to find a way, and also to balance out all the people who have played the games. There are going to be people who understand the reference when I bring up Kenny, but there are going to be people who aren't going to understand that reference. And so I'm used to, in storytelling, the idea that you have to spend a lot of time setting things up and explaining things to your reader while also trying to not look like you're explaining things to your reader. It's supposed to look like a story is happening. But this was a really different challenge. And then as far as the audiences, I'm really lucky in that I think because when I started Clementine, I was 6 or 7 graphic novels into this. I'd been doing this for a while, and when you're in comics for a while and when you're also a woman or a queer person on the internet, you figure out pretty quickly you should have some boundaries. I mean, it's been years since I've even looked at my notifications on any social media. I just post, and I don't read comments. I don't read articles that are written about me. So to be fair, I was very poised to handle whatever the fans want to throw at me, because to be honest, it's never actually reached me still to this day. And I've been so lucky that Skybound as a company, and Robert too, they've been around longer than I have, and they kind of know what they're doing. So I've really just sort of trusted them and let them lead the way when it comes to the fan response. And they're the ones who do the hard work of reading everything and thinking about it. And then they talk to me about it and I talk to them about it. But I just sort of kept landing in this place where I was they asked me to do this book. I'm going to do it my way. But I think it's, for those who haven't played the Walking Dead video game, it's a really unique video game because you play as the character and you make choices, and those choices influence how the game plays out. It's very interactive, and it's a really special video game. It's really, really wonderful. And you play as Clementine. And so I do also think that the switch from having hundreds of thousands of people being Clementine to only one person being Clementine, which is now me, is intense. It's super, super intense, and it's super different. And the graphic novel medium is also night and day with video games. I mean, graphic novels are like the contemplative little sister of a video game. And so I think all of that, like mixing together, made for like a very complex situation. But I was still so excited and interested in the fact that the Walking Dead universe does exist in all these different mediums, because I'm kind of like, we're just like turning this gem over and over, looking at all these different sides of the zombie apocalypse. And this is just kind of my little side of it. And I don't know how to make a video game, and I don't know how to make a TV show or do any of that. Comics is all I know. So I was like, I'm going to just focus on making like the best comic I can.
I love that you said like it's your little corner of the Walking Dead universe, because when I started reading the book, and like I'm not the biggest Walking Dead fan on the planet Earth. I've read, probably like half of the books and stuff, and I watched half of the show. But I have a pretty clear picture of what it is. And one thing I didn't see much of was kids. And even when we saw kids, they were generally like younger. We didn't see like that many young adults. And yet somehow reading the book, it never once crossed my mind that this was a young adult book, because everything in the Walking Dead universe is so bleak and so dark and so horrible. And I'm used to seeing these, big, strong, white dudes with muscles and guns.
Hard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I never thought about that fact, that it was this young adult story. But then once I read that after the fact, it recontextualized the book for me. I'm like, holy shit, this is really screwed up. These kids have no sense of security whatsoever. No no adults really in their lives, at least not at the moment that we're in the book. And when you're a kid, your expectation is that adults are there to protect you. That's kind of just how it is. If you see if you're nervous or scared, you see an adult, you ask for help or whatever. These kids can't even do that. And Clementine, early on in the book, they go to this town where Amos is from, and she's not comfortable. Like, she's kind of like, this is shifty, because there's no trust there, and all these moments, it's heartbreaking to see that these kids are going through this.
Yeah, it's so interesting writing like a story in such a bleak world with teenage protagonists. And what's so, I think the most heartbreaking part is like, they don't even remember that there used to be a time when you could like really rely on an adult. And Clementine's story is interesting because in the games, she has this sort of mentor father figure named Lee, who I'm not going to tell you what happens there. You can play the games and you can find out. And I promise it might not be okay. But so she's like, and I think like a lot of these kids have had moments, fleeting moments of experiencing like what was once a family structure, or like these ideas that like adults know more than you, adults take care of you. But in general, it's like their minds and their lives are like clean. They were wiped clean by the trauma of the walkers coming and literally killing everything and destroying everything. But I think that there is like kind of a hopeful spin you can pull out of all of this, because I think that I wouldn't have wanted to work on these books if I felt like it was just going to be like teenagers facing endless tragedy. Everyone's just going to die. And, you're never going to get to kiss your crush, and it's just going to suck all the time. And it is funny also thinking about a lot of media for teenagers where, they write about like high school in apocalyptic terms. So like there is a long legacy of teenagers experiencing like a lot of tragedy in stories, because it's a really, really hard time. But I think the positive spin is that all of these kids have such a like uniting force that connects them, which is that they all lost so much at the same exact moment in time, which is like, I guess you could call that trauma bonding. But I also think that it can create like a sense of friendship and community that isn't really possible right now with like young kids, where I don't know, it's so unique. And I love the idea of thinking about how like a younger generation in Kirkman's Walking Dead universe could recreate the world in like a wacky and much better way than it was before, because they don't have the baggage of like what was a minimum wage job. They don't even know what the word minimum is.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't know what the word wage is. So it's cool. I try to balance like a little bit of optimism with all the darkness.
And
Yeah.
in having, I also read a pretty decent amount of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
All the children in that, really, we never get their POV. They're almost more of a plot point for the main characters. It's like, all right, this like Carl is Rick's thing that he protects, really.
Totally.
So seeing even early on in Clementine, seeing kids kind of being kids for a little bit, it's just like almost mind-boggling. Like, oh wait, they can do that even though it's the apocalypse. That's still a possibility,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think like most kids would be totally like would not have like a Rick around.
Sure.
Like I think that I love that the like kind of main Walking Dead story does sort of deal with like a family structure and these community structures, but based on the rate at which people die and how difficult it is to actually keep a biting person dead thing away from you, I've thought about it. It sounds really hard. I'd be gone like this.
Oh, same. Yeah.
I think there would be just like a lot of roving children and a lot of people who are solo, a lot of people who like maybe only link up with one or two other people, because the trust, like you were saying, Sean, and like the fabric of society is just disintegrated. Unless you're Amish, because in the book they're doing fine.
Yeah, they got it. They got it. I was
They
like,
They're good. They
wow.
were ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but I love the fact that, the young people in this book are so resilient. You really tapped into the fact that, and I think this is probably just generally true, and it's something that I got out of spinning as well, that, young people, teenagers, they go through a lot. And some of that stuff they might go through privately. Some of that stuff is stuff that's done to them that they don't feel like they can speak about, but they don't necessarily fall apart. These characters don't fall apart. They're strong-willed and they're not willing to say die, regardless of what they've been through. And I did love that, because I think that speaks to the strength of teenagers and young people and the strength of humanity, really.
Thank you. Yeah, I really kind of wanted to flip the script on what like it's such a like 2005 phrase to even say, but like what a badass female character can be. Because even though I love the video games, I feel like Clementine's strength in them is entirely about like surviving really deadly situations. I mean, at one point she like jumps off of like a burning boat to like save AJ, and there's a sense that like what makes her so strong is her just like sort of badass ability to survive crazy situations. But I think that what I wanted to do with her, and what I think would happen as you become like an older teen, like it really is a different experience being 16 versus 13 versus 11, is I wanted her strength to be internal. I knew that she would still find herself in situations where she would need to be like a badass and kill a zombie in a cool way. But ultimately I wanted her strength to be one that is like she's willing to start to open up. She's willing to start to admit what's gone wrong in her life, what's broken her. Just like a really different kind of strength, because I think that that's honestly harder to do than like cool spin move to kill zombie. It's like, no, what's really hard is opening up about the fact that like you don't even remember what your parents' faces looked like. But that's also, it makes sense that I would want to do that, because that's how I've approached all my books, which is quite an emphasis on the internal. Yeah.
And also, when you're making a video game in which a player has to, interact with the world and play that world, you do have to recalibrate to some degree what gets prioritized as far as the narrative, whereas you get to dig in deep.
Yeah, the video game's fun. Like it's really fun to like be in these harrowing situations again and again. And the video, what's great about the video game and what's great about the Walking Dead universe, I'm saying it's great. I don't know if this is actually great, but it's that like often the consequences are real. Like
Yeah.
your beloved characters really have the potential to die. There is no true safety in this property.
It's not Jean Grey that comes back a couple times, like they're dead. Well, they're dead, but they might not
Or
be dead. Well,
Buffy.
yeah.
Didn't Buffy die a few times?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, she sure did, and I cried every single time.
No, me too.
You also go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I had a question with Clementine and Walking Dead. It's in black and white, and traditionally your previous works have been in color, but like I know junior high colors used to delineate Tegan and Sara, and then on spinning, there's a couple different colors there to kind of add depth to it. Was there any challenge getting into that black and white sort of thing?
Honestly, no, because I have been dying to do a black and white book for years, but every time I ask, publishers say no. Spinning was originally black and white. I would have made so many black and white books at this point if publishers would let me. Because especially when you work in kind of a young adult-ish space, I don't know why they think this, but they really think that like kids only respond to something that has some color to it. I don't get it. I'm like, look at the entire manga industry. Clearly, you're all wrong because black and white comics are incredible. And black and white comics were my first love because I first fell in love with comics through manga. And if it was up to me, probably every book I would make going forward would be black and white. But so this property and this opportunity gave me the chance to do a black and white book, which I was so excited about. I got to really lean on like the inky qualities. And I was very lucky. I didn't do the tones in the book because there was 0 minutes left for me to do gray tones. So Cliff Rathburn did them, and he's the one who did the gray tones on all the other Walking Dead books. And he also lives in Vermont, which is so
nice.
weird and random that Cliff is like Cliff's like over there. And he's also crazy fast. So I'm very lucky because I got to do what I wanted to do, which is to just ink my book with my pens and let it be black and white. And then Cliff got to do his thing where he's just like, let me create a sense of like actual like sun rising and sun setting. And I was like, great, I can't do that. You do it.
Walking Dead creators living in the woods kind of tracks. So
I know it kind of makes sense. When I learned that Cliff was nearby, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Makes sense. That's so interesting that the publishers want the color, and I think in spinning you actually use that to your advantage. You start to sort of incorporate a really stark contrast of yellow in a lot of moments. Like how do you, in that case, how do you think about contextualizing the use of color in your books in the sense that they help to accentuate moments in spinning, but at large, then how do you consider the usage of color in your books?
That's a really interesting question. I think I will always sort of approach color as a black and white artist because I think especially for folks who work digitally, and I don't work digitally, it's so easy to have color be a part of the process from the get-go that you're practically like the lines are like, and the shapes, everything is in color so immediately. But for me, everything about my understanding of comics comes from how I think about like spot black and line, and ink, and how like the contrast of white and black on the page creates variation, creates texture. And so I think when I think about color, I think about it as very spare. I think about it as using it, like you said, for contrast, which is totally just an ink thing in my head. I'm just switching out black and white for like white and yellow. And I really struggle to do full color comics when I've had to do them. Like On a Sunbeam and Are You Listening are two of my books that are in full color. And I think the way I've done even some of them is where I'll sometimes color it in grayscale and then I'll change it into color in Photoshop, and then from there start to like add in more colors. But my instincts are just so not colorful. It's really like I can think in terms of tone and variation, but it's really hard for me to engage with a big palette. And ideally, when I'm working with color, I'm working with two colors because that's like, it's just a relationship between the two of them. And I love thinking about that. And I love thinking about taking colors away and bringing them back at like really significant moments. It's like, it's a trick, but it works every time. And so I think that when I've colored full books with like a big palette, it has been like a gritted teeth situation where I feel like I'm guessing. I'm just like, I'm going to put orange here and I don't know why. And I'm going to put pink here and I don't know why. And it took me years to even learn what like layers were. On a Sunbeam was colored all just with the paint bucket tool directly onto the inks, which is not how you're supposed to color. That's not what you're supposed to do. No one told me, but it's okay. When I was doing Are You Listening, I was clicking through the options on Photoshop and I saw the word overlay and I was like, what the hell is an overlay? And that's when I started to just like mess around, but I don't know what I'm doing, which is funny because a lot of people tell me they really like how I color. And I'm like, I don't know why you think that, but thank you so much.
And you said something interesting on how using it in these sparse moments to help accentuate something. That was the first thing that I noticed in spinning. And I feel like in a number of your books, you start to sort of do different things with your art. One of my favorites, The End of Summer, I feel like you make use of a lot of space and this sort of like architecture design that you have. And Tyler has an image up where you just see 3 tones. How do you feel about when it is necessary to use that extra color to accentuate a moment?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, it's like there's sort of 2 modes, and one is impressive and one is lazy. Because sometimes you get to an emotional moment in a book and you know it's emotional because of what's happening, but you're too lazy to actually draw anything. And that's when I'm like, I'm gonna put the special color here because I think it's gonna hide the fact that I really didn't want to finish this drawing. That's the lazy version. But the more impressive version is really like you really have to learn to hold yourself back, because if you ask most cartoonists, like pretty much every moment in their book is special, or like the special moments are like all over the place. And what I've challenged myself to do is be really careful about what I consider important in a story, and to remember too that like you can't ever in comics ever rely on just one element to like make something matter. I can't ever just lean on like a little bit of yellow to make this moment significant. Like a significant moment is earned through like you've been writing to get to this moment, you've been drawing to get to this moment, like the lines, the figures, the composition, everything else still has to be working hard for you. So I think of the color as like this like delicious cherry on top, but it doesn't work if the composition is bad. Like I still have to make sure that like the groundwork to my comic is still there. And I think that's what bums me out sometimes about like so much digital artwork, even though there is so much beautiful digital artwork out there, is I think it's harder to separate out the concepts of comics because you're doing it kind of all at once, and it's so easy to kind of go back in time and go forward in time. But when I draw on paper and I draw in pencil and then I draw it in ink, I am so faced by the fact of like a bad composition or a good composition or a composition that I'm not sure of, because it's just like there's no, once I design where the character is going to be, where the speech bubble is going to be, and how it's going to look, it's like I can't undo it, but also I can just, I don't know, I can see it so clearly. I think I have such a I have a really mixed relationship with like all the different mediums and all the different opportunities now, because it's really hard to make something look good on paper, but I think that's really good, and I'm really glad that I had to learn to make something look good without knowing what an overlay layer was. No, now I know though. But yeah, I don't know. I teach comics, so I think about this all the time, especially in terms of like how can I help my students make their comics wonderful, because all of them have it in them. It's just like, where do you take the time and like, where do you put your energy? And I really do think that a lot of it comes down to like every little piece of the process has to have some of your energy. And that's really annoying. But like, it can't just be coloring and it can't just be character design. Every part matters. Even speech bubbles matter. I still hand letter my books because I still think it looks better.
I totally agree with that. With traditional art, I feel there's more intention, because you don't have that easy, Control Z to just undo something real quick. So I can, seeing traditional art and seeing each individual like stroke, it's like, oh, I can see the thought behind there each time.
I also think that traditional art can sometimes give you more confidence, because every time that I've worked digitally, because it's so easy to second guess myself, I do second guess myself. Like, obviously, I'm going to change the size of this character 50 times because what if it would be better this way? And I love that traditional art at a certain point, like, you're out of time. Like, you can't erase. If you erase this again, the paper is going to be all fucked up. You don't have any more paper. What are you going to do? Like, the limitations are profoundly helpful. And I think like perfectionism in any creative pursuit is just so hard to deal with. It's so hard to accept that like not every drawing in your book is going to look really good. But I've definitely gotten to that point where I'm like, yeah, every drawing is not going to look really good. And that is totally fine with me, because it's a graphic novel. It's not a painting. It couldn't be more different. It's not about the individual images. You gotta let it go that some people's heads are going to be too small. Some backgrounds aren't going to make any sense. And your characters are going to look a little different at the beginning of the book and at the end of the book, because you get better halfway through.
And there's a sense of permanence to it. And yeah. I think that permanence feels, it's like, oh, a person made this, a human made this. And I think the fact
and to be fair, like, humans make digital art too. Sure, and I know so many folks who really, digital art can be really accessible too. Like it's created a really incredible avenue for people to get started and to make art. And I know some people who, like, the way I think in black and white, like, I have friends who, I swear to God, they think in layers, like they think in shapes. Like, that is how they process making art. I wonder if I had started out on different kinds of comics, if I would be a really different creator right now. But I think I'm very defined by having started out on manga.
What manga in particular?
I read a lot of shonen manga, because I'm a lesbian, and I was like, obviously, I'm gonna read about all these crazy little boys. I think so. One of the first I read was Yu Yu Hakusho, which of course led me to Hunter x Hunter, which I always call Hunter x Hunter, even though it's Hunter x Hunter.
I only just learned that recently, so yeah.
I know. I don't even know what to say, man. It's like I was 8 when I was reading it. Obviously, I'm going to pronounce the X. But so Yoshihiro Togashi is a huge influence on me. And what a chaotic dude, and what chaotic stories. But also Dragon Ball. I mean, I loved Naruto too. I read a little bit of Inuyasha and Rumiko Takahashi, like kind of Ranma 1/2, which was a little more geared towards girls. But I didn't love it. I was kind of like, why does this person have ears and a tail? I want to go back to the ninjas. Take me back there. And then a lot of Tezuka, a lot of like Buddha, Astro Boy, all his really weird stuff. Ode to Kirihito, MW. Dude wrote some dark, dark books. And it wasn't until I was older, I was like, in almost every one of these books, a woman gets beat up. I wonder why. But no. I loved his art. And I still have so much nostalgia for just like, I mean, the first time you read Dragon Ball and then you get to Dragon Ball Z, you're just like, it's mind blowing.
The progression as well of just like the art itself. It's so good. Oh
yeah. And I was like, there's no way they can make an enemy even bigger than the last. And it's like, it's manga. They're going to try. Enemy's going to get more powerful somehow.
And a lot of the manga is a singular vision too, that, it's the person doing everything really. And
under such strain. Sometimes when I'm tired, I'm like, this could be worse. It could be a lot worse. There's like a documentary about Osamu Tezuka, and they're like, they put a video camera in his studio. It's on YouTube. And he looks into the camera and he's like, I have to draw 24 pages tonight. And I was like, all right, no, I can't believe it. I throw a fit when I have to draw 6 pages in one day, but 24 pages in one night, I just can't believe it.
Yeah, that's physically just wild.
I know, and he died really young, and we kind of know why.
Yeah. It's unfortunately a pattern.
I know.
In Clementine, you at the back mentioned sort of the tools that you use to create. It was interesting that you mentioned that you only sort of I guess later on started to use Photoshop and programs, but here you have it penciling with Procreate as opposed to penciling physically. Is there a difference for you in terms of how you want something, how the end product comes out, or is it sort of like it is more convenient and maybe a bit easier to work in that?
Yeah, I wonder. This was my first time with Clementine penciling digitally. I got my wife an iPad for her birthday, I think, and I just kind of took it. So, sorry, honey. This is my iPad now. Part of the problem was they wanted Clementine to come out pretty soon, and they still want a book out each year. And we've managed to do that for books 1 and 2. We'll see about book 3. And so my initial reaction was like, I have to find a way to draft this book out faster. And I sort of suspected that if I tried to do it on the iPad, it would be faster, because part of the problem with my process, not a problem, but just one of the quirks of my process is that I don't write scripts. And I do just draw the book. The first thing I do is I sit down with page 1 and I just draw the book. I make an outline, but then I ignore the outline. So I make a lot of drafts of each book. And what I've done before Clementine is I've just physically penciled each book multiple times, because I pencil it once, the editor tears it apart, and then I just draw it again, which really helps me like find what the story is going to be. It takes forever. It's not smart. But I don't know why I do it this way. I just sort of do it this way. And I knew that with Clementine, I was going to end up penciling the book multiple times. And with the timeline they gave me, I was like, let's see what happens. If I can, I specifically wanted to see if I could edit the book faster. And I could edit the book faster, because it turns out when you pencil a book digitally and your editor tells you that half the page needs to be like flipped, you just like move it in Procreate. It was unbelievable. I was like, I didn't erase the whole page. I didn't have to get a new piece of paper. And so that was a good streamlined process. And I enjoyed it, because also then I could sit on my couch while I penciled and not at my desk. And that was awesome. I just watched TV. But I don't think it changed the inking and the final art process, because I still printed out the pencils as blue lines on paper. And I did what I always do when I ink, which is I ignore the pencils. So when I've penciled traditionally, and then when I have blue lines, they're just different. Like I look at what my guideline is and I'm like, no, I can do better than that. And I just draw something different. So it's really funny looking at the originals for Clementine, because you can see like a blue Clementine over here, but ink Clementine is over here. Like there's no overlap. So even though I worked digitally for the pencils, the fact that my inks were still kind of, I was making it up as I was going along, that part of my process stayed true.
I love that though. Even from conception to through the end, you're just kind of continually making a bit more freeform. I love that. Like you have the outline, you have sort of the guides, but you're not restrained to those things.
No, I love to have something on the piece of paper, because it makes me feel like I know what I'm doing. And then I love to change it and like completely sort of restart it. And I think it threw my editor a little bit to be like, why do the inks look so different from the pencils? But I was like, this is just how it goes. And the same thing happened with book 2, but he was like,
I get it.
He knew. Yeah. He was like, all right. But then with book 2, he was like, can we not pencil this book out multiple times? Could you just like figure out the story? And I was like, yeah, I'll figure out the story. I drew book 2 3 times in the pencil stage. So Now he asked if we could avoid doing this for book 3. We'll see.
Probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Promise.
yeah. I'll write a story. It's fine. I know how to do that. Everyone knows how to do that.
Yeah, just say that you got material for the back matter of the book. You know.
Uh-huh.
I know. Sometimes I'm like, I have all these other versions of the book just kind of like sitting around, and it's sort of funny to look at them.
That's wild.
Yeah. And pretty different stuff happens in each version.
That's what I
Like
was gonna
different
ask, yeah.
characters die and like different it's different. But that's also because I take edits too far. If my editor is like, this scene isn't really working, could you just like think about the dialogue? I'm like, I'm cutting the characters, I'm cutting the locate, everything's different now. You told me it was wrong. I'm gonna change everything. He's always like, no, don't change everything, don't change everything.
You could do like, you know how the Telltale series is like choose your own adventure almost.
Yes.
You could do that with the comic.
You absolutely could. You absolutely could.
I wanted to make one more remark about Clementine, and then I want to shift over to Spinning because I love that book. There's a moment in Clementine where Rika she asked Clem if Lee ever hurt her, and Clem says never. And I really, really love that moment. We get the flashbacks to Lee and stuff like that. And I didn't play the game, so I have no idea who Lee is. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But I got the idea from the book that he was kind of a protector of her, and they were together at some point, and he was helping her. And that moment for me was so huge because that moment was, hey, people can still be good. And there's a reason to be hopeful that this girl, she was just a girl, and she had this man who helped her, and he never hurt her.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, now you gotta play the games. You gotta know about Lee. But yeah, I think it's those kind of people really stand out in the Walking Dead universe. And that's true for these books, but also true for like the shows and everything where like, God, you meet someone with a good heart who like is gonna try their best to never betray you or do anything wrong. What's funny about The Walking Dead is that like you're always going to try and find situations that challenge a character. So you're going to want to find situations where like, oh no, you have to make a choice where you like maybe have to do something wrong, even though you don't want to. But yeah, I think especially in a story about like a vulnerable child, it's really easy to lean into just like everyone has hurt you. But Clementine, I think she gets a lot of strength from the fact that she met Lee like day 3 of the zombie apocalypse, like very early on. And he always was a good person towards her and always took care of her. And I think that a lot of people actually have those instincts. I have those instincts. If I saw a little girl, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to take care of you now, I guess you're my daughter. So yeah, that's a great moment.
So yeah, I mean, I love Clementine. I can't wait for the next one. I think that's going to be incredible. Is there anything that you can tease us with at all?
About book 2?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, and I've said this about the series before in other places, that every book takes place somewhere different. So book 2 is not in Vermont. I won't tell you where it is, but it's going to be Clementine and her little trio are going to interact with a lot more people this time. They're going to face like a really different kind of challenge. And I really think Clementine is at the next stage in her journey where I do think book 1 is about her opening up. And then book 2 is about the consequences of opening up. I keep forgetting book 2 isn't even out yet. I'm like, where is it? Why isn't it out?
October 4th.
Yeah. It's being printed right now. I do know that.
Can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, maybe, I don't know how much fun it is to watch.
Fun, sure. Fun, violence, danger, trauma.
That'll be out right around near Comic-Con too, so cool.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So Spinning.
Mm-hmm.
I read Spinning in one night.
Oh my God! Wow, cool.
Yeah, cool. You broke my heart.
Oh no.
In a great way. In the sense of like, it's such a phenomenal book. I don't tend to read comics that are like this. Most of the comics that I read are superhero comics,
Got
and if
it.
they're not that, they're still, Image or something like that. So
Yeah.
to read a book that's, autobiographical, that's done all by one person,
Mhm.
uh, those are not typically the kinds of things that are in my wheelhouse. But what is in my
Yeah.
wheelhouse is stories that are authentic, stories
Mm,
that are real, have depth, have stakes. And the
yeah.
fact that you established all those things when you were talking about your own life, I think, first of all, I think that's cool as fuck. That you were able to like contextualize your life in a narrative way. I was like, could I do that? Like, is my
It's
life
hard.
interesting? And I'm like, I guess I could,
Yeah.
but it is, I can imagine that it is hard.
Yeah.
Um, and then also being that vulnerable.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how to talk about this book, and I'm like, well, will there be things you won't want to talk about? Like, you wrote it, it's your life, but like, and so oftentimes in the book, you mentioned that you would not tell people about
Mm,
the things that happened to you. Like,
mhm.
you would hold it all in. And for people who don't know spinning, it's a book about Tillie's life as a young person, particularly from the lens of her being in figure skating,
Yeah.
ice skating. I guess I don't know what the correct
Figure
term
skating,
is.
ice skating, all the same thing.
Cool. And it's about love, loss, heartbreak, the things that you go through as a young person and kind of figuring out who you are. And so you talk about how you don't tell people in your life at that time what happened. And I
Mhm.
was curious, were there people close to you when spinning came out that were like, Tillie, that happened?
Oh yeah, all over the place. People were also just like, "Why didn't you say something?" And even I, as an adult, I'm also like, "Why didn't I say something?" Like, but it's so hard, and it took a lot of work to remember exactly how it felt to be like 12 years old. And it's like it is like your mouth literally just will not open. I mean, I still remember my mom just asking me like, how was skating? How was school? And I don't think there was anything she could have said that would have like pulled it out of me. And I think a lot of kids can relate to that experience of just like, I don't know. For some kids it's instinct, for some kids it's sort of like built into them by their family culture. But it was impossible for me to talk about my experiences growing up. And I thought childhood for everyone was just like a miserable experience. And then I like met other people as a young adult and they were like, I liked high school. I loved my extracurricular activities. And I'm like, what was that like? And you're like, and you like your parents? Like all of this is just fine. Um, but yeah, working on the book felt like sort of another like kind of cheesy metaphor, like kind of like a waterfall or like just sort of unlocking something and letting it all out. And I did spinning when I was young. I was 19 when I made spinning. And so I actually think that was perfect because when you're 19, you have no sense of consequences. You have no sense of responsibility. All I could feel was that like, why do I feel like my entire life has been this tense nightmare? And I was at comic school when I was 18, 19, 20, having an incredible time. I was in Vermont at the Center for Cartoon Studies. And I was so happy that I was like, why am I so happy now? And why was I so unhappy before? And the 19-year-old in me was just like, let's just make a comic about it. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the comic's going to be any good. And I also knew very clearly that I had not processed any of this and that in 10 years, I might have a much more nuanced and different approach to talking about my childhood. But I was like, I think what I want to do though is tell a book from the perspective of someone who is still so raw and so not nuanced. I was just like, this shit sucked and I want to write a book about it. And I'm so glad I did it that way because I just like the book just happened. And I was very lucky in that like the consequences of the book were ultimately very positive. I had a lot of people in my life who did not know almost everything that happened in that book. It was hard for my parents to read, super hard for them to read, super hard for all sorts of family members to take in. but I realized like I have like a limited amount of time with my family. I think about that all the time. My parents are much older than most parents because my parents sort of had a family in a different kind of way involving like adoption and surrogacy and all this stuff. Um, so I was like, I have this limited amount of time with my parents left. I don't want to spend it lying to them. Even if it destroys our relationship, it's like, I got to be honest with them. That was not a fun childhood. 2 stars out of 10, did not enjoy. And as soon as I talked to them about it, they were like, oh my God, really? Like they were apologetic, but they were also like so open to restarting our relationship where we tell each other everything now. And I tell them everything now, and they tell me everything. And it's night and day. It's really like, and the book totally opened it up for us. I mean, I wouldn't recommend to everyone, like, you want to throw a bomb into your family and really try and break down those walls, do a memoir. That is not for everyone, but it just so happens that for me, the best way for me to talk about my life was through a comic. And I don't know, it just like it really, really worked out. And I'm really proud of that book. It was hard. It was obviously hard to make. And there's so much still that isn't in it. There's still so much about ice skating, so much about my life that I either didn't have room for or I was too scared to put in at the time. So I am curious if I'll ever make a memoir again. I don't have that instinct right now to do it. I'm really grooving on zombies and fiction and Tegan and Sara. But who knows? Who knows? I think there's something great about making a book before you're ready to make it, as long as it doesn't totally mess you up. And it didn't totally mess me up because I was like a happy kid at comic school. So I was in a really like stable place when I worked on it.
That push and pull of like what you decide to share and what you don't. It's got to be like A, therapeutic in a way, but also B, like, that's got to be rough, you know?
It's weird. I mean, it's weird to talk to people about spinning where they're like, oh my God. And then the sexual trauma. And I was like, what's sexual trauma? Like I sprinkled in the easy one. And it's like, they don't know that. And they don't know like so much more about my relationship with my parents. People don't know that my mom isn't my biological mother. Like but that's what's funny about books and memoir is like, you just can't tell them everything. And you have to trust that like, you're not telling this story so people know who you are. Not really. Like the physical people in your life need to know who you are, but your readers don't need to know who you are. You're just telling this story so they can connect their own life to it and their own experiences to it. So like a book is the wrong path to be like fully seen. Go like talk to your partner and get some therapy if you want to be fully seen. Don't do it with a comic because again, like that book is 400 pages. It's so long, but scratch the surface really in so many ways to like all the aspects of my life. And then I meet people and from their perspective, like they know my life story and I don't need to correct them because it's also like from your perspective, that's true. Yeah. From my perspective, no, not really.
Because it also needs to serve a narrative sense, you know? So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And the only way to turn your life into a narrative is to have a really good editor because you can't. When my editor was like, we got to cut this scene. I was like, how dare you? This is my life. I will not cut this scene. And she was like, you're going to cut this scene. This doesn't make any sense. So like you were saying, Sean, I think that if you could totally do this just like me, you also need a good editor. Like you just need someone who is going to look at it from a story perspective. And I think for some people, maybe it might be hard for them to take in the idea that like there are scenes in spinning where chronologically they happened in like the opposite order, but like I had to move things around in order for it to make sense in the narrative. And to me, that didn't feel dishonest because I was like, everything in that book actually happened. All the feelings, all the memories are as authentic as I could make them. But I didn't mind sort of manipulating and moving things around for the sake of a narrative because it's a book and the only way for someone to tap into what I felt is if it feels like a story. So to get to the honest feelings, you have to like kind of make yourself into a character. And I think that's hard for people, but I didn't find it that hard. Well, no, maybe I did find it hard because I felt so personally attacked when my editor tried to cut things or suggest that I, you know, think about this or think about that. But I learned, and I really trusted my editor. She was wonderful.
Is the pain of your youth something that's still close to you?
No. No, it's pretty weird. I think about it every now and then. I'm pregnant right now, and
Congratulations.
thank you. We'll be meeting this little guy in a couple months, 2 months,
Wow.
2.5 months. Jesus, I don't know. We're not even going to think about it. And so as I think about becoming a parent, it comes up more. And my wife had a really happy childhood. And so especially when I talk with her, I do sometimes the pain comes up again because I'm like, God, what did that feel like? What did it feel like to come home and feel safe? What did it feel like to be able to talk to your parents? But I mean, adulthood has been awesome. Like I have had such a good time. Everyone always told me like, oh, being an adult is hard. It is hard. Doing your taxes, really annoying. Don't like doing it.
Especially as a creative.
But,
yeah.
Like the autonomy of like, I have my own house. I have a job that I love to do. I make comics all day. Like a lot of the pain has been erased by how wonderful life has been since, and like living with someone I love. I get to have a baby. I've always wanted a baby. This is so exciting. I got a crib in the other room. I can't wait to put the little guy in the little crib. Then he's gonna be like, no, all right, I'll take you out of the crib. So yeah, the pain isn't that close anymore, which is really nice.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you. It's and it's funny when people read Spinning too. I think they then expect to meet me, and I'm gonna be like somber and like, oh, God, so dark, so hard. But no, God, everything's so much better now. I don't have to ice skate. No one's making me ice skate. I have any coaches. I mean, I have publishers, but I can push back on whatever I want to push back on.
Well, I thought that there was an aspect of like a hopefulness in the book too, because I thought a lot of it was about you finding your voice and your autonomy to be able to say, I need to stop doing this. Like, and you framed it that way too. And I thought that was really smart. Where you took over control of your life by saying, I'm not spinning anymore. I'm not going to ice skate. I'm going to go do comics and have a great time and, you know, fall in love and like live my life. And I think it's cool that, you know, the ending of Spinning, I mean, it's not over because it's your life, right? But like, it is a happy ending because you're here now. You know, I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's cool too. And I think that it's great that your childhood will end. And like some people, for some people, that's a really sad moment. But for a lot of other people, it's a huge gift to be like, and now you get to make these decisions. You have to pay your bills, which sucks, but you get to decide what state you're in where you pay your bills, what apartment you're in, and if there's a cat with you. We were all talking about our cats before this started, but
yeah, he's asleep somewhere else now.
I'm
a lot of cat people energy in this room.
Yeah.
I'm a dog guy.
I was gonna guess. I was like, I bet Sean's different.
Yeah. Sean, you just don't know it yet. Oh wait, no, you're definitely allergic. You do know it. Yeah.
Oh, you're definitely allergic? Okay.
I'm allergic to dogs too, but my love for dogs is so great that I'll suffer.
I'm allergic to cats, but I have two. So, yeah.
Well, your cats are also menaces. You should see some of the scars this man has from his cats.
I look like a cool manga character, you know? Like I got like cool like X mark scars. Not on my face. I do have a scar on my face from a dog. Never mind. We don't need to get into this. Me and animals.
Anyway. So Spinning was absolutely incredible. I think everyone should read it because what it did for me was like, it let me know an aspect of who you are, but like you said, it's impossible. Even if we sat here for 3 hours, you wouldn't be able to tell me everything of your life, right? So there's always an aspect of others that you will never be able to fully connect to. But you also mentioned it's not really about that. It's about allowing a bridge for the individual reader to connect to themselves.
Yeah.
And there were certainly moments in the book that I was like, wow, I remember when I couldn't speak. You know, I remember when I couldn't say it. And I had to sit with that.
Yeah.
And I think that it's as hard as it is for any person to sit with that, whatever that is in your life, the thing that you couldn't say when you were a kid, or maybe you can't even say now. One of the things that I appreciate so much about art, and it made me think maybe I should be reading more books like this, is that it does help you connect with yourself. And I appreciated that a lot.
I agree. Thank you. Yeah, it's the power of this medium. And I also think that there is just something really beautifully satisfying about reading a moment in a comic where you're like, yeah, that really feels like what it's describing. It sounds so arbitrary to have like a really positive response, but like I still sometimes read comics and like they draw a character getting out of bed in the morning and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it feels like to get out of bed in the morning. And I just love that. I just love that these little drawings can connect to real feelings and real experiences. I think it's so cool.
And it's unique because I stopped. Like there were moments in the book where I stopped and sat with it, you know, whereas if you're watching a movie, it kind of goes at its own pace and everything else. So yeah, just absolutely incredible. And now I get it. Now I get what the Eisners are about. I see it, Tillie. I see the skills.
Thank you.
Batman doesn't need every nomination, Sean.
You know what? I don't even know how many Batman has ever gotten.
Fair, yeah.
Oh, probably a few. I don't know.
There's some pretty good Batman.
Definitely more than one.
Yeah, has to be. Too many years we've been getting Batman books.
There's a moment in the book, not straying too far from the emotional bits, but where you sort of catalog your growing interest in cartooning and comics, and there's a moment where you're speaking to your music teacher, and she asks you, about the future, college, and you mention when referencing art. I don't know. I don't feel this huge passion. It's just when I started drawing, I want to finish it. Do you still feel that way about art? And has your relationship to art changed? How has your relationship to art changed from that inception to where it is now?
Oh, it definitely grew into a passion. But I think that I always felt really different from kids who were like from day one, they're out of the womb and like there's a pen in their hand and they're just like, they're obsessed with drawing. My wife is a cartoonist and she's one of those where she just like, her whole childhood was like filling sketchbooks. And that wasn't me. I never felt this intense drive to draw. And I also felt like there were just always kids who were better at it than me. So like, why should I even do this? And when I did start drawing comics, which was entirely because I took a class with Scott McCloud and Scott was like, keep drawing. And I was like, okay. I was a teenager and I started drawing comics. And at first it was just simple. It was like, I started it and it was like, I want to finish this drawing. And then a few years later, I think when I was at comic school, I went to comic school just because I liked drawing comics. I don't think I loved it, but I was like, I like this. And I don't want to go to college. That sounds like not fun. I'm not going to do that. So I didn't do that. I still have yet to go to college. But when I was in comic school, it became a love and it really became a passion. And I got obsessed. I was like, I want to do this forever. And then the next change was it became my job, which is totally different from it being your passion. I'm still very passionate about it, but it's like, I also clock in and clock out with comics. Like, regardless of how I feel about the medium today, after this is over, I'm going to go work on my book because I have to go work on my book. But I think, especially because I've made so many comics at this point, comics are like a very familiar and loving place for me to be. Like, it's very comfortable for me to work on comics. I feel very safe when I work on comics. And every now and then my like love and passion just kind of like bubbles to the surface. Usually when I feel like I do something really exciting. There was like one moment I drew in Clementine book 2 where I was like, yes, this is it. This is why I do this. And then there were a lot of moments when I was working on Clementine where I was like, I just got to draw some lines today. That's going to be fun. I wish I didn't have to draw lines today, but I have to draw lines today. So yeah, that was the trajectory. It was like, it was an interest, and then it was a passion, and now it's a job. And I tell my students all the time that if you want a career in comics, you have to consider how it's going to change your relationship to this medium and this practice, because it will go from being something like secret and beautiful that you do in your bedroom to something you get paid to do, and something you have to do, and something you're obligated to do. And I think you can still have comics as your job and as a career, and feel so much love for it and passion for it, but it will always be different. When I made comics when I was in school, when no one was paying attention, and I did it purely because I loved it and I thought it was really fun. Like, that's such a different sensation. And I think there's this big push for people to turn their creative pursuits into their job. And I think for some people that is absolutely what they should do. But I don't think that's for everybody. For some people, it should just be their creative pursuit on the side. And it does nothing but give them like joy and freedom, because when it becomes your job, there's constraint and there's obligation. And also then it's tied to like paying your mortgage. And that's weird. You know, I was like, I got to go draw these pretty pictures today because I really want to keep our house. And I also really want to buy this expensive crib. But then you're like, hell yeah, I'm going to buy this expensive crib. Let's go draw Clementine.
This line paid for the crib.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm making a living.
So with spinning, that's kind of your memoir, it's autobiographical. You also did work for junior high, which is somebody else's sort of like pseudo biography with Tegan and Sara's. What's the difference between that? You know, you're going from drawing your own lived experiences to someone else's, really, even though it's not really when they grew up. It's more modernized version of that, but still, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it still is like, I made these books. Well, I've made one. I'm working on the second one. 2 books with Tegan and Sara, these Canadian queer pop duo. They're twins. And this is books about their experience in middle school. That is lightly fictionalized, but like you said, it's all the feelings and most of the experiences are real. It is night and day. It is so relaxing to work on my books with Tegan and Sara. I don't have to think about anything. I'm just like, I'm just drawing comics. I think I watched all of The Sopranos while working on junior high book 1. I was really just thinking about The Sopranos as I was working. I was like, oh, Tony, don't do it. No, Tony. While I'm just like drawing these cute little kids and like talking to their mom. It is so freeing and relaxing to work on those books because I don't have the emotional baggage of being connected to it. Instead, my only goal is to try to take their experience and show it as like authentically and as sort of in like the most fun way I can, because they're very cartoony books. They're very sweet books. And so I feel like I'm doing sort of the easy part of my job, which is just like make good comics, just like make the pacing good, make it beautiful, make the characters feel sweet and charming, add some humor in there. But there's no like dark secret core where I'm revealing something about myself. Working on junior high has been the easiest book experience of my entire life. It was just like, and it helps that Tegan and Sara are also so chill and so nice that they sent me a script. And being the cartoonist I am, I'm like, there's too much dialogue here. Like, I have to change the pacing of this. This chapter doesn't work. Let me fiddle. It's been brought up before. I tend to change things. They were so fine with that. They were like, cool. Make it great. That sounds great. Do it. Go for it. They really trusted me. So it helps that we have a really great working relationship where they're letting me be a cartoonist. They didn't hire me to be an illustrator. They didn't hire me to just one-to-one illustrate their words. That's a different job. They hired me to pace out and design and compose a comic version of their story. And that's what I want to do. Like that's what I love to do. And it's what I've spent all these years doing. So it's been great. I mean, I haven't cried once working on junior high. Cried a lot working on spinning. Great. No tears whatsoever.
Tegan and Sara's not something that's coming up in therapy. So that's good. Yeah.
No, only positively. We're just like, they're so sweet. They got me like a little like baby carrier because Sarah just had a baby recently. So whenever I talk with them too, we don't even talk about the books. Sarah's just like, did you get the diaper pail yet? Oh shit, I haven't gotten it yet.
Cool.
Was there some like bonding over the fact that you're twins? Like
yes, a lot of bonding, and a lot of the whole concept for there being like sections in the book where it's like this internal twin space. That was my idea. That was totally inspired by my relationship with my twin brother. Tegan and Sara didn't actually write that in. So we talk a lot about the difference between I'm a fraternal twin and they're identical. And that's really different. So we talk about that difference, but we also, we really bond over being twins and the intensity of a relationship with a twin.
I have twins in my life. They're friends of mine, and they're paternal twins. And you talk about intensity, like it's unbelievable. And I can tell that sometimes they're looking at each other and they know exactly what they're thinking. They're having a conversation that I'm not in.
Oh yeah.
It's weird. The use in junior high of Tegan and Sara are when drawn together, they are sometimes blue and red to delineate, but then a lot of the book is purple as well. I'm assuming that's your decision on that.
That was my call. Yeah. I don't know when this book came together, it wasn't Tegan and Sara asking me directly. It was like publishers trying to kind of link us up. And then we did eventually start talking, but I don't know if they were envisioning like a classically colored middle grade graphic novel with like, 10 colors and shading. I don't know. But when I made the sample art, I was like, I don't want to do that for all the reasons that have come up previously. And I picked purple because it's my safe zone. Spinning was purple. Yep. I love this part was purple. I'm like, I know purple. I got purple. I can do purple. And originally the whole book was just going to be purple. And it wasn't until I started inserting these like inner twin sequences where I was like, something I talk a lot about with Tegan and Sara is how hard it is for them to be individuals, both with each other and in the world as identical twins. And I was like, oh, so this is my chance to make them be individuals by giving them their own colors. But I did not even ask them, like, what's your favorite color? I was just like, you're blue, you're red, it's done. I was like, we got to move. We got to get this book out. Because I was working on junior high while I was also working on Clementine. So there was quite a push to get both books done. And now I'm doing the same thing where I'm working on Clementine book 3 and junior high book 2. The baby's going to interrupt all of that, but we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to keep drawing every day and see what happens.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah. I can't imagine listening to Tegan and Sara while trying to be in like a Walking Dead space. Like those are two wildly different.
It's different. Yeah. Oh man, it's really, really, I really had to have like a Tegan and Sara week where it was like, I am Canadian. I am a child. I am happy.
Yep.
And no one is trying to eat me. And then I'd have like a Clementine week where I was like, danger is around the corner. Like there is no water. There is no food. Good luck.
When you became Canadian, did you binge Degrassi?
Oh my God, I should have. You're right. Yes. Now I know what I'm doing today, Sean. I'm gonna turn on Degrassi and work on junior high book 2 or
see how Drake's doing.
It's called. I don't know.
Oh my
Sean,
goodness.
Were you a Degrassi guy, Sean?
I love Degrassi.
Yeah.
Degrassi, Dawson's Creek, Buffy. You know me. All
such
about
good
it.
Stuff.
Yes, right.
Big Buffy person over here.
Oh yeah, we talk about Buffy all the time.
We could do a whole podcast about Buffy. Buffy's been a part of my life since I was 5, 6.
Wow. Oh my
talked about
God.
it.
Also, but then your perspective on it must have really changed as you got older too.
Oh my God. Every time I rewatch it, I have a different perspective. And it's almost like I look at it as an adult, but then there's also a part of me that becomes a kid again. It's kind of weird.
Totally.
It's we talked about it on our most previous episode where it's like a lot of the modern writers that are like right around our same age area, the blueprint of like Buffy is in a lot of it. And like as a Buffy fan, it's like, oh, I see it. I can see that and I can appreciate that. So yeah. It's great to see like that. That's like pop culture cornerstone nowadays.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, I always cultivate these like paternal relationships with older men, and I'm just like, I just want a Giles. I just want like, I want a librarian to like tell me what to do today.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Giles
God.
was my dad. Like,
He was all of our dads.
yep.
I was a big Anya fan, but let's not analyze that one. So that's,
Oh wow. Oh, we could unpack that. That's
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah.
I want to know.
No, so knowing Tyler,
Yeah.
that's not even a remote surprise. That makes so much sense.
That's a
to
self-report.
me. Wow.
Oh no.
Oh my God. Of course you would love Anya.
All right. Next question. No,
Are
wait,
you
I'm
a
not being
Xander?
interviewed. I'm not
Do you
being
feel like a
interviewed.
Xander?
Oh, we
Let's-
can't even begin to talk
Ooh,
about
boy.
Xander right now.
That's Xander could have his own thesis entirely.
Yeah, really.
Absolutely. All right. Well, yeah, because now I'm trying to get on my Buffy, so clearly that
Yeah, we just got to
that-
make a
that's
third
whole-
show, Sean. That's all.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. Tillie,
Yes.
before we let you go, I just wanted to ask you, because obviously you operate in a space in comics that's sort of your own. You've curated your own space and you're doing your own thing, and this connection with Tegan and Sara, just like Clementine, is another branch out for you.
Yeah.
Do you foresee yourself ever branching out even further, doing something a little closer to mainstream? Do you feel like you're heading there, or is that not something that you're actually interested in?
I think I'll do it someday. I don't think I'll do it after this kind of Clementine, Tegan, and Sara era of my comics career. I think after these books are done, I want to go back to original graphic novels for a little while. And I want to collaborate with my wife. We did a picture book together. And it turns out when you share the work in a comic, it's not so much easier. So I have like a couple different things that I'd really like to do in kind of the next 5 years. But after that, I don't know, maybe once little man is in elementary school, everything's like calming down a little bit, I could see myself taking on some more mainstream work or like a more mainstream property, DC, Marvel, see what happens. Because I'll never say never, because if you had asked me, 5 years ago, if I was going to ever do The Walking Dead, I would be like, why would they want to ever work with me? But here we are. So you never know. And I think it would be a really fascinating challenge to work in these, in like this legacy of comics that is so integral, to like what this industry is right now. So maybe someday, not just yet, but maybe someday.
Heard it here first. Tillie on Batman.
Batman is now gay.
Well, we can unpack that
That's
too.
exciting.
Sorry, everybody.
I mean, please, we could all throw out characters.
A lot of
Marvel
subtext.
would be cool. Like, there's a lot of
Yeah, no, there's super cool stuff out there. And I have a friend, Robin Brooks Smith, who's been working on Nubia with
Yeah.
DC, and that's been a really cool experience for her. And so I sometimes we're drawing next to each other, and I look over at Nubia, and she like looks over at Clementine, and we're like, oh, yeah, we're doing it.
That's cool.
So we actually wanted to do a giveaway of
Ooh.
Clementine because the next book is on the horizon. It's coming out in October, so people should get ready by reading Clementine book 1. And
Love that.
so I'm going to announce the winner alongside their question. So we had people submit questions for you, and we got one from Joel Justice, who is, of course, a member of our Patreon. And Joel wanted to ask you a very similar question, which was, what stories would Tillie want to make, either superhero or creator owned?
Ooh, I would love, first of all, thank you, Joel Justice, for a great question. I would love to do something about like Robin. I would love to talk about like the sidekick. I would love to talk about like the characters in the shadows. I also grew up watching Teen Titans, so it wouldn't be hard also for me to get very invested in making comics about Teen Titans.
Ooh,
Or
Red X
Super
story.
Mutant Ninja Turtles, also a big one in my youth. I feel like I could try and draw a turtle. I think the turtle would still end up looking like really sensitive and feminine, but that's okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
those early Ninja Turtle comics were black and white. You can have fun there again.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. I think those are a couple different avenues I would be down to walk down. I don't think I would want to do like Wonder Woman or anyone too big. I'd want to talk about the side characters.
Book it, Tillie Walden on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Let's
My
do it.
It's funny you mentioned that, as Sean is currently reading Teen Titans and
that's right.
kind of getting
Yeah.
into that whole Robin thing. Yeah.
Yep. So thank you, Joel. Appreciate you. You will have a copy of Clementine Book 1 headed your way.
Hand delivered by
Reach out to
Marco.
you. Everybody's always trying to get Marco to go to their house. It's unbelievable.
I'll make it.
It is kind of
You do
worrying,
it, Marco.
honestly.
You can do it.
All right, Tillie, we're going to let you go. It's been such a blast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all. This was wonderful.
Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with? Any kind of like plug, anything you want to say?
There's
Where
just
can they
so many
find you?
good comics out there. Don't hide. If you see something online that looks really cool, I would just say get it. Support creators wherever you can. Buy from their stores. Look indie and look beyond America. There's just great comics out there right now.
Is there something that you're reading right now, or you want to be reading?
Oh my God. I mean, I'm not actually reading this. This is just it's called a Shisaku nonsense book. It's just a drawing of nonsense from all these, I think some of them are manga creators, but that's not really a recommendation because this is a really old book. But if you want to just look at nonsense drawings, you can just Google nonsense books. But graphic novel wise, I just read Hidden Systems by Dan Knott, which was excellent. It's a nonfiction graphic novel about how the internet, electricity, and water work. And I left it feeling so smart. The fact that I now understand that the internet is not in the sky, it's in tubes in the ocean. Couldn't believe it. And any other books? No, that Hidden Systems is what comes to mind. That's a great one. It's
Cool.
really, it's like he made learning fun, which is so cheesy, but Dan Knott made learning fun.
This looks cool.
Hey, listen, now, I mean, you can make a comic about anything. And I think that's cool as hell.
I know. I love it. Comics are for everything.
Comics are for everything, and comics are for everyone. And I think Tillie Walden's comics, they're for everyone. So
thank you, Sean.
go buy them. Thank you so much, Tillie. We will hopefully speak to you again soon. Live audience, we'll be back. We're just going to say goodbye to Tillie off mic, and we'll see you in a moment.
Perfect.
we're back. That was a lot of fun. One of the things that I am most appreciative of whenever we get to speak to creators is candidness. Like I really, really, really respect creators who are willing to come on the show and speak openly and honestly about, life, their work, etc. And Tillie did all that. I thought that was fantastic from top to bottom.
A lot of fun talking.
Yeah. And one of the things that I learned, right, is like give shit a chance,
Yes.
I'm so grateful to this podcast because, doing this, we try to have, different kinds of guests on. And a lot of the time I come away from it having read something that I definitely wouldn't have read otherwise. And it opens me up. So I'm really, really glad that we did this one.
And,
I mean, as Abba once said, take a chance, take a chance, take a chance, just on comic books in this regard.
Yeah.
So I was listening to a lot of Abba again yesterday. I can't help it.
And considering the caliber of creator as well, like if you're gonna jump in with to somebody's work, cannot be a better person.
But like, I'm guilty of it. I read me a lot of Spider-Man. I read me a lot of Avengers. But like, check out fucking Fantagraphics. Check out First Second.
Yeah.
They're like this Dan Knott hidden systems. Like I think it's a Penguin Random House publication. But like, that's still a comic book.
Well, looks cool.
Dude,
Yeah,
I want to know
gotta
about
get-
water tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love comics. This reinvigorated my love for comics because comics is just so much. Like it's so big, and books like Spinning, they don't remind me of it because I wasn't around back then, but it harkens back to, like the old days of comics with an X, underground comics, where you had Marvel and DC were all there was in terms of like, people's headspace, but you also had a lot of stuff that was underground. People just making comics about their life, making comics about what they've been through with no connection to the wider industry at large whatsoever.
Were you guys ever forced to do extracurriculars you didn't want to do?
Not that I didn't want to do. I
You did soccer, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I did baseball. I never really cared for baseball, but yeah.
My one and only example of that, and this is something that, man, there are people in my life who might listen to this and not know that this is true, but I actually, this is crazy to admit,
New Sean Moore drop. Here we go.
I took a ballet class.
Whoa.
Yeah. I couldn't do it because they chose me to. They came to the class like fourth grade, third grade, whatever it was. They were looking for people who had feet that had an arch in it. People that weren't flat-footed. And if you weren't flat-footed, you could try for ballet. You could do the class. And I'm not flat-footed. So I remember being like, I don't want to do this. But I did it anyway. One class. And I was so freaked out by it because I wasn't comfortable like being vulnerable like that. I wasn't comfortable like moving around that way in front of people. And I was just like, I'm never going to do that again.
Wow.
I like dance class.
Man, the frequent patch updates and lore drops for Sean.
The
Very
patch
interesting.
updates, not the patch updates.
What you don't know about me could fill a 400-page book.
I need your spinning, Sean. I need you
Yeah.
to. For all I know, you're a cartoonist on the side. You just have never told us.
It would be so if I had to write or create a book similar to Spinning, it would be called Purgatory. That's what I would call
I thought it'd be called sitting.
it. I've done a lot of that.
Yeah. The raid leader / podcaster version. Yeah.
Oh my God, forget it. But I did actually want to show off something that I just received. So if you guys could vamp for like 5 seconds.
Oh, what was it? Marco, how's your day going?
Great interview. It was phenomenal. I love when a creator can speak so intelligently about comics.
Hell yeah.
So I wanted to shout out Humanoids because they actually just sent me. I got this literally yesterday. This is Eight Limbs by Stephanie Phillips.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, that was my same reaction. Giulia Lali.
Guillaume?
Yeah, I guess maybe.
Wait,
I don't
wait,
know.
let me see the name.
They're an Italian. They're an Italian comics creator. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, Guillaume.
Julia Lally. Yeah, that sounds about
Yeah.
right. And Lever Ridge. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so really awesome creative team. It looks great in physical. Humanoids, huge shout out to them for sending this my way.
Yeah.
I can't wait to dive into it. These are the interiors. If you're watching us, the interior art is
Ooh,
fantastic.
very good.
Yeah, I think it looks amazing. And it looks like it's about women who are in MMA.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what it looks like it's about. So.
Damn.
You said MMA, and my dumb Lady Gaga ass just went ma.
Yeah, so I can't wait to dive into this. Like I said, huge shout out to Humanoids. They're doing some great work. So, you talk about supporting, different kinds of books, different kinds of stories. Well, there's a different kind of story, but it's by creators that you're probably familiar with. So, definitely worth a pickup.
I gotta snag that Bella Lugosi book from you.
Yeah. Absolutely, you're welcome to. We don't have news planned. We're not going to do all that today. We wanted to focus to be on Tillie Walden. I noticed that a lot less people showed up live for this one. That's okay. I understand. When we're talking about Spider-Man and stuff, that's the meat. I get that. But we want to not just do shows where we're interviewing creators that everyone knows or talking about things that everyone knows. I think part of doing this and part of what's cool is getting to expose you all to things that you might not know about, and in turn exposing ourselves. That's what happened to me through this. So thank you to everybody that listened. We appreciate you all. You guys are rock stars. If you learned something from this interview, if it impacted you in any way, if you go out and buy Clementine or Spinning or On a Sunbeam or anything else that Tillie has done, please let us know. We would love to hear that. And that's why we do this.
Yeah, and next week, catch our interview with Hurst, where we talk about his creation Tintin and the history. No, he's dead. I just looked it up.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Yes, you were very late, Jose, but it's okay. That's all right. The good thing about this is that we do it live, but you can listen to it whenever you want.
Listen back.
Exactly. That's the whole idea. So we're going to do the plugs and jump. Marco.
Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Comics Pals. This one with a creator I was so excited to have on the show.
You were
Love
fanboying.
Tillie's work. Sorry?
You were fanboying when we
yeah.
this past week.
Very, very much so. I've been following Tillie for a while now, and to see the trajectory and to see the growth, and then she's right there, and she's like, it was an awesome experience. And I think, to Sean's point, one of the things that I love about the show is when we get to talk the sort of mechanics of comics and the how the construction, and that sort of breakdown is fascinating to me. So thank you again to Tillie for coming on the show. Go read all of their work. There's so much out there, so much that's just worth it to go pick up and take a chance on. Otherwise, you can find me at Mr. Marco Enomoto on Instagram and Twitter. I might go finish reading some more Tillie stuff, honestly. Keep working on the back catalog.
Tyler.
Oh yeah, I gotta do this too. Yeah, you could follow me at the Tyler Olson on Instagram and Twitter. I wanted to say something. I don't know. I got nothing. I'm gonna go get a Grimace shake after this, I think.
Watch Money in the Bank.
Oh yeah. LA Knight, come on. EO Sky, come on. That's what I want.
There you go. I'm gonna plug us because I didn't do that before. Of course, we're the Comics Pals. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview. We love doing interviews. We love having creators on the show. So if you're into that, there are plenty of ways that you can let us know and support. Something as simple as leaving a like on the video if you're watching this on YouTube, or leaving us a rating and a review on a podcast hosting platform. That's huge. Sharing with your friends is huge. Patreon.com/The Comics Pals is the best way to support the show. You guys know the drill. We like to give you bang for your buck. You can vote in the listener or the book club poll. You get to listen to our exclusive show over there, Palling Around. There's all kinds of stuff. Our newsletter's up there. Kale had a good one this week. You get a nickname and a shout out on the show, as you heard earlier on. So there's a lot of cool stuff that we're offering. So head on over and check it out if you haven't. Tokyo Ghost Book Club is out July 4th.
Come on.
That is this Tuesday. So give that a listen. I saw a lot of people in the Discord have already picked up their copy of Tokyo Ghost in anticipation, which
exciting.
is super cool.
Did a new hardcover just get released? Like
The one that AH posted is old, actually. I
Gotcha.
think.
Okay.
That art is old.
Although, have you been seeing the Black Science Omnibuy or Remender's been posting about it? Oof.
Yeah, I have on Instagram. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm sad I already bought Black Science. Like, I don't need this new version.
Like
I
you
don't
can't double
have
dip.
it in a collection.
Dude, them things, you know how expensive those motherfuckers are? I have Black Science in singles, and I have it in these nice, beautiful hardcovers.
The big ones, right? The deluxe hardcovers. Yo, the
Yeah.
Remender deluxe hardcovers are so good.
Giant Generator knows how to do it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. As for my plugs, my personal plugs, you know, I'm on Twitter and Instagram only at Sean Soapbox. I'll be watching Money in the Bank. Matt. Oh my God, never change. Yeah, I'll be watching Money in the Bank and crying over spinning. So I'll enjoy that. You guys enjoy your weekend. Happy July 4th. Thank you all so much. See you later. Love you. We're the Comics Pals signing off. Take care, guys.